have 5 yes votes. I'm not sure. I think they're getting the screen up now.
We've got some technical problems.
Yes, sir, but that was 5 yes
All right,
votes.
that passed unanimously. Okay, very good. Next up, Commissioners Forum. Commissioner Bender, you're recognized.
Thank you. It's hope everyone's had a good year so far. As I mentioned during public forum, I was able to visit the Orange County Correctional Institute. Their jail, like us, they run their own facility. It's not done by the sheriff, so I appreciate the chief's help in getting that set up and their time down there. Commissioner May, it was good seeing you at H.K. Matthews' birthday. Rick asked me about that this morning on the radio, and one thing I didn't say was how excited everyone was that they were in the Pensacola Museum of History and something that they couldn't be in before to celebrate
Absolutely.
his birthday. And so it was glad to see everybody come out and support that.
Thank you for being there, Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Want to, since it's now part of the agenda, we'll have to handle it separately. Want to congratulate Tay High School cheerleaders team. Won a state championship last week in South Florida, and I think that's fantastic. The add-on is just going to be some discretionary dollars helping reimburse the travel expenses. I guess that's one of the things that that I've found out over the years. When you have the teams that compete, like Pine Forest football and some of these others on large levels, the travel expenses seem to have changed tremendously in 25 years since I was in high school.
Yes, they've gone straight up.
Yeah, they're considerably more expensive, and the thought of ever, kind of like over the years we've talked about Commissioner May, ever having people that are wanting to participate in recreational youth leagues that aren't able to because of the registration expense or the uniform expense or any expense tied to that, what should be a public participation, that we've found unacceptable. I think it's also would be unacceptable if you have any of these teams, any of these young people that are able to compete on a large level that wouldn't be able to make the trip or aren't able to travel because of the expense of doing so. For what ends up being often once in a lifetime opportunities, regardless of what the competition is or what the makeup of the team. These are opportunities for these young people that some never have and others only have limited opportunities. So I think it's great that we can help to some degree because it appears as if there's not a tremendous amount of discretionary dollars at the school to help with these things.
There isn't, believe me.
Well, that's unfortunate. I did mention to the superintendent that we were very generous in supporting Pine Forest under the leadership of Commissioner Berry and yourself. And I, too, know the extracurricular is very important in your high school years, so I'm going to continue to support as well. So, and I see our school board member Hightower here, but I certainly want to be a partner and lean on our district. Because I think that the extracurricular athletic portion is very critical to the overall development of our children.
And our board, has obviously been supportive of sports teams, and this is cheerleaders, but likewise in different settings, we've been very supportive financially towards the 4-H competitions, national 4-H competitions, and meat judging competitions, and public speaking competitions. Any of those opportunities where again people have that opportunity to excel.
Well, under your leadership and the former superintendent, I know that you brought forth monies for the academies, the fire academies, and those things, and through our discretionary. Worked with Leroy Williams and Clara Long for a tennis center at Oakcrest, which is going to be an inner city tennis center, and then we took some of our CRA discretionary dollars to partner with the school district because of the partnership of the Evanwood. So we continue to try to be good partners.
Commissioner Berry, I'd like to, if this would be all right, I'd like to go ahead and add on and just tag along and help those cheerleaders as well. And then our next board meeting, I'll be bringing a recommendation for my discretionary to help the Pine Forest girls softball team. So again, I'll echo everything
Fantastic.
that you said. These students, they got to go. They got to go across the state all the way south, and we end up traveling. It's a great thing, but then you end up with a bill, and so I want to help and be supportive however I can. So I'm going to tag on and add 1,000 for my discretionary to that item as well. Commissioner May, you're recognized for Commissioners Forum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I certainly want to acknowledge that wonderful jacket you have on today. You're really not the best dresser up here, but today you really stepped up. So congratulations. I do want to recognize an icon, and I was just seeing Patty Hightower many years ago. I had the opportunity to sit on the Hassett sales tax when Jim Paul was superintendent, and two of the guys that I learned a lot, Alvin Wingate and Admiral Peter Booth. And Alvin Wingate, unfortunately, lost his life. He served on the planning board, Horace. He worked at ECA. He was just a great guy. Lived in Perdido and Commissioner on the Hills District, but Wingate Beach. And as we talk about Black History Month, many years ago when my mother and father were children, they were not allowed to go on Pensacola Beach. They had to go to Wingate Beach and to Johnson Beach because of discrimination. And Alvin Wingate family made it available and possible that for the funeral services of Alvin Wingate. And also we want to congratulate Washington and Pine Forest basketball team. They're the two Escambia County teams that are still in the district championship. And I think they'll be playing Friday. Commissioner Bender, I know your family was out of county on last night, and on Tuesday night I was in Panama City where we had Pensacola High School as well as West Florida High School playing, and unfortunately lost as well as Escambia High School also lost. But we do want to congratulate all of our high school basketball players for a job well done, and also to all of our, last week was National Signing Day. We know Pine Forest as well as Escambia High School were able to sign some great people. Amir Graham signed with North Alabama, and many other kids also got scholar athletes on their accomplishments for getting athletic scholarships for the next coming school term. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner May. Commissioner Underhill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. I want to start with compliments, Wes, to the staff of our clinic. I'm blessed that I don't often have to have medical care, and so I had an opportunity to deal with our clinic with a positive COVID test last week. Your team delivered medical care and information completely devoid of politics and devoid of all of the fear and things that are normally a part of that. I was almost ashamed that I was surprised at the quality of care that I received. To my peers up here, I can assure you I've completed the CDC recommended guidelines for, prior to coming back and being in public. So without the war on the horizon. And I'd ask that every citizen remember that you have a lot of military families to whom this is not just a news article that passes across the news every couple of minutes. You have military kids that are wondering if dad's got to go, and even if dad doesn't end up being the one going, just the uncertainty that creates, that the environment we're in right now creates for the military family. Please keep that in mind. And if you've got military families in your neighborhood or whatnot, reach out to them. You'd be amazed how much just a phone call will do. The reality is they're going to say, tell me what I can do to help. They're always going to say, thank you so much, thoughts and prayers and that kind of thing. There isn't a whole lot you can do. But what you can do is make that phone call, and you'd be amazed how much of an impact that has on a military family. So very good. If citizens would take that to heart. The final thing, Mr. Chairman, it was brought up, I think, in public forum that a recommendation that Escambia County consider getting into the utility business. We all are very cognizant of how bad the bill structure is right now, and the impact that's opportunity for FPL to do a little bit more than what is necessary to demonstrate that they are in fact a part of our community. I've had some good conversations with FPL on the subject, not sure where, but citizens, you've got to know the only thing that could possibly make the delivery of power worse than it is today is to have the government in charge of it. That is simply not a reasonable course of action in response to the issues that are in front of us today.
It's a tough predicament that we're in. I've spoken to members of our legislative delegation. Senator Broxton was gracious and called me back. And when we had our town hall last week, we provided some information, but the way it's structured is that the utility company it's in statute, and then they are allowed to charge us the cost of generating the energy, which it's horrible. My bill went up 70%, so but it's not something that we can directly control, but we can talk about it, and that's what we're doing up here. So to all of you out there who are concerned about that, know that we're concerned about it as well. And Commissioner Underhill, there are a lot of things that you and I do not agree on. There's a lot of times where we butt heads up here, but one. I've got 2 children that serve in the military, so I want to publicly thank you for your service in the military. Thank you. And thank you for those comments. We all hear the drumbeat. And I'm praying it doesn't happen. We don't need a war with Russia. I don't care about Ukraine. I care about our borders, not their borders. And I'd also like to thank staff for a tremendously successful town hall that we had on the 31st, a week ago Monday. I want to thank the people who came out. You know, it was packed, and I apologize. The size of the room, the size of the venue was not sufficient. It was set up for 50 or 60 people, and we had more than 130. But I appreciate every member of the public who took their time, most of whom sat through the entire meeting. And do you need to take that? Who is that? You need to take the call? You need to go ahead and take it? All right. As I was saying, I appreciate every member of the public who came. I appreciate their questions. And on that same topic, a week from coming Tuesday on the 22nd, we will have another town hall in District 1 at Beulah Middle School, starting at 5:30. I would encourage residents out there to please come. I'm going to stay to the very end. I will talk to anyone who shows up, just as I did at the one we held in Perdido. And we will attempt to answer every question. I'll have staff there, and if we can't answer the question on the spot, we will ensure that we email you the answer to the question. So again, Wes, to you and your team who showed up at that town hall, thank you, because it was a tremendous success. And finally, the IT staff, Bart and James McCasland, we had a significant problem with my iPhone. It was operator error and my fault completely, but there were public records on my phone that had to be preserved. So the staff stayed here till 7 o'clock at night on my behalf and helped me with a solution that preserved the public records. So I want to publicly thank you for that. Without your help and Mr. McCasland, I don't know what would have happened, but now we're back on track. So thank you for your help. And that's all I have. Wes, would you like some comments for public forum?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to offer condolences to the family of James Walker. James is a longtime county employee in Public Works. He was a welding fabricator in our shop, and unfortunately, he passed away this past week, and they'll be having his services here in the next few days. So I wanted to mention that, and also echo Commissioner Underhill's kudos to the clinic. I had an opportunity to visit the clinic about a month ago, and it was a great experience. And so while we have a lot of employees here, that is a valuable asset for you guys and us as a county. So if you need to use the clinic, please do. It helps us with our health insurance, actually. Additionally, unfortunately, I had my wife was in a motor vehicle accident, and I had to use the services of EMS last Friday. And so I want to thank Eric, and I want to thank the crew on the ambulance, Kimberly Hart. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Wes. And might I ask, is your wife?
Yes. Yeah, she's going to be fine.
Okay. Glad to hear that. Did not know that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Commissioner May.
Commissioner Bennett, light was on. But I mean, I had some, I didn't want my phone to ring. I didn't want you to punch me, but I mean, I'll be honest.
Well, I mean, if it rings once, but when it is continually
Keep going, yeah.
allowed
Oh,
to
no,
ring,
no,
it becomes disrespectful.
It'll be my daughter. She wants a car.
No, I was remiss in mentioning James Walker, so I appreciate Wes mentioning that, and Tom Public Works employee who passed away last week. So our condolences to him and his family. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, 2 things that are not on the agenda that I think are worthy. One, I'm so glad that people recognize the clinic, because Garnett and Dr. E, when I was fighting for the clinic, I recognized a long time ago how important that clinic was, and I've certainly grown to have an appreciation for the work that, although Garnett's gone, what Dr. E is doing there. But there's not a lot we can do, and hopefully we'll find the support that we can find some other resources, because the mortgage, rent, utility programs that we have, it's not really addressing the need. I know the city launched one with some of their ARPA funds or block grant funds, so I would ask Wes and Claire to bring something forward to help our citizens, because they're going to need it. And so I would hope that we'd find support. And other things, Mr. Chairman, programs and not just moving a problem doesn't solve a problem. And I think that should be a conversation of how we combine resources to address homelessness that's going on in Escambia County. So I'll follow your lead, but know that, I'm looking for, conversation in a direction of solution in partnership with the city, the school board, and all of the stakeholders on how we really address homelessness, but shifting them out of sight of people with influence into other areas is not a solution for me.
No, I agree with you 100%. And on that note, since you brought it up, my intention was to speak with staff about scheduling a joint meeting with the city, because I've heard anecdotally, I don't have evidence of it, but I've heard anecdotally that they did move the people out, but that a number of them are actually now out in the county. They've moved them out to the county in certain hotel rooms, motel rooms, and with limited funding, which once it's gone, those folks will be out, and where they'll be is anyone's guess. But yeah, I hear you loud and clear, Lumen, and I think we should have a joint discussion, an honest, frank discussion about the issue and all aspects of it. It's very enigmatic, and I know that there's a number of folks who, as hard as it is to say it, are homeless by choice. They're addicted. They don't want help. They don't want treatment. They want to smoke meth and do drugs. I want to help the people that are out there that genuinely need help, families, veterans. I want to help people that are addicted that want help to get them treatment. But the 40% that don't want help, I'm not inclined to expend any resources on them.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
And Commissioner Begoshian, you're right. That's why I want it on as an agenda item, and certainly respect your position. But sometimes it throw millions of dollars for blankets and tents and food without addressing the real systemic. Absolutely right. We can't be the landing point of migration of homelessness.
Correct.
We have to have actual case management, programmatic things that are put in place that prevents it. And so that's why you have human services. Really preventing people from becoming homeless is the real key, because once they're homeless, it's so hard to redirect it. So, we have to, if we're really serious about preventing homelessness, we have to begin to put more money in workforce development, in pre-delinquency, in mental health, and into drug rehabilitation and drug addiction.
I'm willing to look at all of that, and I appreciate it. So, Wes, if you could, let's go ahead and have some conversation with the city, folks who want help. Yeah.
I think the important part and one of the data artifacts that's really been very well documented of late is that many of the homeless folks that we have in Escambia County are not Escambians. They're folks that were already in the homeless lifestyle and chose to come here in part because we have so many services available to the homeless that are not tied to performance metrics and performance behaviors on the part of the recipient. It is it's a basics of don't feed them dependent upon the hand that feeds them. We can and we must, if we're going to solve this problem. I've been on this board now for 7 years, coming up on the end of my period of service. The conversation has always gone the same way as we've had those joint meetings. And we refuse to accept the fact that you have to separate out the Escambian who needs help from the more disciplined approach on the part of the government to send two messages simultaneously. To the citizen who needs help, a clear signal so that they move on down the rec under them and live the life that they deserve here in Escambia County. Not $1 should be being spent on those who transition to our community to take advantage of our goodwill.
Well, it's hard to argue with any of that, but I look forward to the conversation. And
we're on trend this morning.
yeah, I'll tell you. And it just anecdotally, we see folks out panhandling, and we're told never to give them money, and I can't help myself sometimes, and I do. I've given money, and I will just take a moment of personal privilege to say that I've got a soft spot for bag. There was a box of candy that wouldn't melt, a bottle of water, a can of Vienna sausages, a can of beans, and a spoon, and a napkin. And I saw him, and I saw him one day, and I gave him the bag, and he leaned into the window. This is a true story. He leaned into the window, grabbed the bag, and in one motion, flung it. So look, he was a drug addict. He didn't want the food, but his sign said, "I need help." So that's kind of that's where I'm at on it. I want to help people that really need help and want help and can get off the meth pipe, the crack pipe. But if you want to do that, I just got no love for you. So I hate to go on and on about it.
No, and Jeff,
hate to go on and on about it.
I'm with you. Handing him a bottle of water is not going to address his issue. So I'm on board that we.
But he's got to want it, Lumen.
He has the warning, and they're going to be. You know what I'm saying? And quite frankly, he left the 99 and when he got the one, Jeff, as a believer. I mean, that's what God did. And so for me, I have no right to have a preconceived judgment about who will and will not receive help. It's my responsibility to give all that I can possibly give. And so I do concur that those who don't live in Escambia County, I got to take care of Escambia County first.
Yeah.
You know, and so we spend a lot of money on data collections with our not-for-profit outside agencies that we've given money, and we need to look at those numbers. We need to see what the address and what their identification says, but then have a programmatic approach to what we do, because if we get 10 people from being homeless, you know, what will that do to I-10 and Brent Lane, and what will that do to downtown?
Sure.
And so, but we have to be able to invest those dollars in things that people don't see. People don't see the drug rehabilitation. They do see people handing out blankets and water and food, and they get a news clip on Channel 3 because they're underneath a bridge. They don't get it when they're going in and providing the mental health counseling and talking to people and giving them an elevator out of the position that they're in. And quite frankly, the Bible says the poor are going to be with you always.
Always.
There will be some people that you just won't elevate. But to those that we can, those that have invested in our community, we should at least try. And, you know, nothing fails but a try. So I see where you're going. I mean, I may have more of a bleeding heart, but I certainly believe that there is hope to the very end for all people.
Yeah. No, I'm my former peer on the Escambia County School Board for many, many years, and my friend, Patty Hightower, welcome, and thank you for 15 years of what you've done. Thank you. That before I recognize you, Horace, I will just say, having been on the county commission now, going into my 6th year, and having a great appointee on that planning board, you talk about a tough to serve on, hours and hours and lots of time, and really very tough issues. You don't make a lot of friends doing it. You make a lot of people angry, a lot of citizens. So, Patty, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your service, and I'm proud to have you here. So, Horace, with that, I know you have something to say.
Thank you, Commissioner and Chairman and board members. It is indeed an honor and a privilege, and thank you for the board for giving me the opportunity to present this to Miss Patty Hightower.
It's okay, take a deep breath.
I have answered the, but because of her political diplomacy, because of her tactfulness and her wisdom. The wisdom book says a wise man is known by their excellence of speech. Miss Hightower, she provided that. When things were sort of chaotic, and which at many times there, it has been dealing with some difficult issues. She was a non-voting member, but when she spoke, she brought about a calmness. She knew how to do this proclamation with love and honor.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Escambia County Board of County Commissioners, Patty Hightower is hereby recognized for her dedicated, and I'm going to add this, professional services to the Planning Board from November 2006 to November 2021. Again, Miss Patty, we thank you sincerely, so we know that you're going to excel in your next endeavor or whatever project you may be working on. Again, thank you tremendously.
Thank you. I didn't know I was going to get to say something, but thank you to Mr. Jones. And I want to say to you, county commissioners, you have an amazing planning staff. They deal with so many different things each and every day. And I've been through how many directors and how many different boards, and I have learned so much about this process, and I have learned that we can't please everybody every time, which I've also learned on the school board. I just decided that I took on the role as Children's Trust member for the school board, and I thought I had to give a few things up. So again, thank you, and I hate to be the kind of person that takes my plaque and run, but I have to be at Tate.
On the planning board for 5 years, and she was great. You know, there's two non-voting board members on there, and Patty handled that role extremely well. And you know, I think that was a period of time where, you know, there were a number of contentious meetings, as Horace mentioned. It was also a period of time where there were 2 meetings a month, and it's, you know, as many of us have sat on boards and sat on this board and other boards, there's a certain dynamic when you're a non-voting member where you're there just as long, you listen to just as much, but you don't have the influence that the other people on the dais have. And that's a difficult thing for a lot of folks to navigate, but it never seemed difficult for Ms. Hightower. So degree of professionalism, as well as the Bruce Stitt and Stephanie Worm, the 2 Navy members that served at the same time, were also great, and they handled it that way. They were there just as much as the rest of us, but they didn't get to really exact a lot of influence on the outcomes. And that's got to be a difficult dynamic, and 15 years is a long time to suffer willingly through that. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Berry, for the kind words. All right, next up, we have got the proclamations. We've got a number of them. The chair would entertain a motion on the slate, and then we'll take them one by one.
Move the proclamations.
Motion and second on the proclamations. No further discussion. Please vote. Oh, Commissioner May? No, you're all right. Okay, proclamations passed unanimously. We'll start out with the first one, the proclamation commending and congratulating Donta Mason, a permit technician 1 in the Building Services Department, on his selection as Employee of the Month for February 2022.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Tolbert has given me the honor of introducing our Employee of the Month. I'm very excited about it because he's one of 3 people on this planet that call me Dad. So really looking forward to, Chairman, if you would indulge me for a minute to tell a story about Dante. Dante's been with me for a long time in our family. He worked for us at the pet supply stores we ran in Memphis years ago. And I want to tell this story because the BID people will not believe this when I tell this story. But he was the shyest person on the planet when he first came to work for us. So much so that we had our pet store had a bunch of little old sweet ladies that came in every week to buy wild bird food, things like that. And Dante was so quiet that they couldn't hear him, and they always complained to me about we can't hear him. So one of the things I told them was, I was like, okay, why don't you just take his hand, smack him on the back of his hand and say, speak up every time you can't hear him. And you'd be in the back of that store and you'd hear, speak up. And then you'd hear Dante go, yes, ma'am, how can I help you? So it really has changed the way he is, but now he's grown into somebody that's loud as Horace in the COC. So it's completely different than it was before. I'm so proud. If you run into him today, after today, somewhere in the halls or at the mall or wherever, you're probably going to get a hug. So just be prepared because he's a hugger.
Right
I'm going
on.
to let Jennifer read his proclamation. Thank y'all for indulging me. For
Absolutely.
So I am blessed to have this amazing man as my employee. He has put such a new life into our department, and it's evidenced by almost his whole staff coming to see him get this proclamation. If you all could stand up so y'all could be recognized. So we're going to read this proclamation. Performance of his duties. And whereas Mr. Mason began his employment with the county on June 2nd, 2020, and provides excellent service to the citizens of Escambia County through all assigned duties. And whereas, as the permit technician 1, Mr. Mason processes permit applications and is also assigned the task of processing digital online roofing permit applications, which has received an excessive number of applications since Hurricane Sally. Mr. Mason has taken on the task without complaint and maintained the queue at appropriate level, resulting in short wait times for the roofing contractors. And whereas recently, and we know this was tough, Dante, the Building Services Department, the permitting division, experienced an almost month-long period of being extremely short-staffed due to COVID-19. Mr. Mason, along with 2 other employees and their lead, maintained the same standard of service that is typically assigned to 10 employees. Although facing a daunting task for that period, Mr. Mason came into work every day with a smile on his face and encouraging words for the small team. He kept spirits high for everyone and made a tough situation for all that were involved. Whereas being a frontline permit technician, Mr. Mason interacts with all departments within the central office complex. He provides assistance to anyone asking questions and a blessing to the Building Services Department. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida commends and congratulates Mr. Dante Mason on his selection as the Employee of the Month for February 2022. Board of County Commissioners, Escambia County, Florida. Jeff Bergosh, Chairman, District 1. Douglas Underhill, Vice Chairman, District 2, Lumen J. May, District 3, Robert Bender, District 4, and Stephen Berry, District 5. Mary Grace and Maggie. His mom and his girlfriend are also here. So
I know,
I'm
right?
done.
Hold the bottom of the board.
Here we go.
Thank you, Andy.
Dante, yeah.
Dante, you
we
gotta
wanna
say
hear from
something.
you.
I got the
We
floor.
want to hear
I got
from
the
you.
floor.
You got the floor.
Hey, if your whole staff gave up their lunch break to come to
tell
you,
you.
you gotta say something.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, first off, I just want to thank God for allowing us all to come together and share a happy moment. I want to thank Escambia County for being so wonderful to select somebody like myself. I've never, I didn't expect this at all. I'm just grateful to do what I do on a day-to-day basis with an amazing team that is dedicated to what they do, passionate, so much that their passion and dedication rubs off on me, and I'm right there, just chuckling along with them. So I just want to thank my mom, dad. Y'all know who my dad is. He just came up here and surprised me with that, by the way. I wasn't expecting that. But I can go on and on about this team. I just want to show my gratitude. I love you all. Thank you for allowing me to grow, allowing me to spread the knowledge. Thank you.
Congratulations, Dante. Commissioner Bender?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to recognize everyone in our Building Service Department, especially Mr. Mason, for their hard work. It is nice to be out in the field and hear how you glad to work with us because you get the permits through, and that you guys haven't stopped the last 2 years. And that means a lot to us sitting up here that you're willing to come in every day and do it. But it really means a lot to the people that you have to deal with, but also to their customers that are having their houses built or projects done. Over the weekend, I had somebody come up to me and say, hey, we turned in our permit 2 weeks ago and we haven't heard anything. I said, well, I'll check on it on Monday. And then they called and said, hey, we got it. Our builder just hadn't told us yet. And I would say that oftentimes they like to use you all as a convenient excuse, but sometimes it hasn't been sitting in here for 3 days. We sent it in 30 minutes ago. And so with what you all do every day, day in, day out, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Commissioner May?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Jennifer is the best. I mean, Tim has the best person. But so many times, Mr. Chairman, we look to the east of us, to our colleagues in Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, about things that they're beating us on pay scales. But unfailingly, when you talk to builders, contractors, to the east, to the west, within, they say that our building inspection department is top notch. And so that's not only Tim, but that's to all the people that come in every day and do that. So we do appreciate you guys, but we really like y'all, but y'all have really overspent your time, Nicole. Y'all probably got to go back to work so we don't have permit delays.
For her 24 years of faithful and dedicated service to Escambia County, Todd Humble, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. If there's anybody else from Library Services, like Lana, come on down front. If I missed anybody from the map, come on down front. Sorry, I forgot to ask Terry to bring a story time for you, since that was her specialty. But whereas Terry Church began her library career with the city of Pensacola in January 1993, working part-time 5 years until 98. She began her career with Escambia County in 1998 at the West Florida Public Libraries as a clerk in the circulation department. Whereas, while working in the circulation department, she decided to pursue her master's degree at Florida State University. She graduated with her Master's of Information and Technology and Library Science in 2010. Whereas, after her graduation, Terry became a children's librarian at the Pensacola Library Children's Department. In this position, she followed her passion for children's services, planned a variety of engaging programs and activities for young library patrons. In 2013, she became the children's librarian at the Tryon Branch Library. Terry's has helped ensure the selection and care of the materials that meet the needs of our youth in Escambia County. Whereas during her career, she's provided well over 3,000 story times to the children's parents and other caregivers, along with crafts and other activities, including singing and movement exercises. She also organized and ran thousands of other programs over the years, and every year she has led the Tryon Branches Library Summer Reading Program. Whereas prior to her work with West Florida Public Libraries, Terry received her bachelor's degree at Southern University with an emphasis in early childhood education. After graduating, she became our library clerk at a local school where she also taught third grade reading at Escambia County School District from 1979 to 1980. Whereas Terry's commitment and service to the youth of Escambia, many parents have thanked her, thoughtfully preparing story times and activities for them, especially the programs for babies and small children. Terry's a proud parent of her adopted daughter and enjoys time with her husband and grandchildren. She's the caregiver of her mother, who's in her 90s. Whereas Terry will be missed by her staff, family, and the thousands of children that have been fortunate enough to receive her gentle and encouraging dedication to serve the youth and citizens of Escambia County. Now, therefore, it be proclaimed, the Board of County Commissioners, on behalf of the citizens of Escambia County and her co-workers, commend and congratulate Ms. Terry Church on her retirement. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners express its deep appreciation to Terry Church for her 24 years of faithful, dedicated service to children in Escambia County. Presented by Board of County Commissioners, Escambia County. So unfortunately, we've lost two of our stars at the Library Service Department this past month. We do have the fact that she's trained 5 different branch managers over at Genealogy in the last 7 years, 3 of which are here. And I'm going to put them on the spot to each read one of these paragraphs on her proclamation. We'll read the bulk of it for them, but I will be passing it off to 3 of her most recent supervisors that she's trained and made sure know how to do genealogy properly, which actually includes myself, so 6 in the last 7 years. Whereas Sandra Heekst started working with Escambia County in January 8th, 2001 as library technician at the reference department. She did interlibrary loan, a system where the patrons borrow books from other libraries for free. She helped patrons find books and library, also books we did not own. She also helped to answer reference questions in the reference department. Whereas Sandra worked on finding and requesting items from other libraries for patrons through interlibrary loan, she received packages containing the requested items in the mail processed them and got them ready for our patrons to pick up. During this time, Sandra took various classes on interlibrary loan through our local library consortium, the Panhandle Library Access Network, to continuing education, and her hard work has enabled her to receive 2 promotions. She was also named Person of the Month during that time. Whereas in 2009, Sandra became the supervisor of the circulation department. She managed staff, scheduling, worked with problems with materials such as loss of damage, and helped patrons in their encountered any difficulties with their accounts. Later that same year, Sandra was offered a position at the newly created Genealogy Branch Library. She helped with the move and material, the books, film, microfilms, files, furniture, etc. This is Chris Hare, whatever. So we're right there.
Whereas in 2016, she helped with the renovation of the branch, contributing her expertise to the planning and execution as she drew up floor plans. She helped make a new layout for shelving, desks, and all the historical materials, making them all more accessible to patrons. And
Michael Toronto. Sorry, right there. Yep.
Whereas Sandra's greatest contribution has been, as before, her dedication to helping patrons with genealogy research, using the library's computers, printers, and databases to answer and decipher ancestral research questions. Sandra has helped thousands of Escambia County residents research their family's genealogy, thus enriching their lives with a greater understanding of their ancestors. And
This is Alan Davis, our current genealogy branch manager.
Sandra has been a tremendous asset to the Genealogy Branch Library and the West Florida Public Libraries, as she always learning and always willing to serve, share what she knows, working with persistence and perseverance. She has helped many, many patrons in her 21 years of service to the library. She is greatly missed and will be missed by her library family, patrons alike. Let us celebrate her legacy, hard work, and dedication to the citizens of Escambia County.
All right, now therefore let it be proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners, on behalf of the citizens of Escambia County and her co-workers, commend and congratulate Ms. Sandra Heekst on her retirement. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County express their deep appreciation for Sandra Heekst and her 21 years of faithful service and dedication to the citizens of Escambia County. Jeff Burgash, Chairman, District 1, Douglas Underhill, Vice Chairman, District 2, Luman J. May, District 3, Robert Bender, District 4, and Stephen Berry, District 5. Sandra, you want to go ahead and say something? Yeah. Go ahead and get the branch managers up here, too.
Thank you. Next up, Commissioner May is going to present the proclamation proclaiming February 11th, 2022 as General Daniel Chappie James Day. Commissioner May, you are recognized when you get to the
Commission. Whereas General Chappie James Jr. is being honored with an acknowledgement on the 102nd anniversary of Chappie James, born on February 11th, 1920 in Pensacola East Side neighborhood. He was a fighter pilot who earned his Army Corps wings in 1943 at Tuskegee Army Airfield, where he trained pilots for All-Black 99 Squadron during World War II. General James flew 101 combat missions in Korea and over 78 missions in Vietnam. Whereas the childhood home of General James at 1606 Dr. Martin Luther King Drive was declared as a historical site by the National Registry of Historic Places on November 7, 2000. And on June 6, 2018, the home officially opened as the Chappie James Museum. Whereas Escambia County is honored to have General James as a resident leader and inspiration to our community. Now, therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County, Florida, hereby proclaims February 11, 2022 as General Daniel Chappie James Day. Board of County Commissioners, Jeffrey Goss, Chairman, Douglas Under District 5. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for this proclamation on behalf of the family of General James, on behalf of the Chappie James Museum, on behalf of the General Daniel Chappie James Flight Academy, and most earnestly, definitely on behalf of the citizenry of Pensacola. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, items E and F were ratified. We ratified them. They were presented, or they will be presented at different dates. So next up, partial lien relief for the property located at 35 Carver Drive, which is in District 2. Madam Attorney, you're recognized to set the table.
Yes, sir. This was actually on one of your previous agendas. It was dropped at that time due to the absence of the District 2 Commissioner, so it is the same one that you previously had on your agenda. This is a request from James O'Toole, 35 Carver Drive. Yeah, Mr. O'Toole is seeking relief from code enforcement liens, 2 of them, against the prior owner of his property, which was 5T Wealth Partners. Mr. O'Toole purchased the property by quitclaim deed in January of 2021. At the time, it was encumbered by 3 code enforcement liens related to violations tied to 5T Wealth. The administrator, pursuant to your existing policy, was able to provide relief on one of the liens and did authorize a partial release in response to payment of $6,000 towards the original lien of 72 liens, because those are still open code enforcement cases regarding open violations on 2 other properties owned by 5T Wealth. Those 2 properties are at 341 Washburn Street and 205 Webb Street. Mr. O'Toole is now attempting to sell this property at 35 Carver Drive to Habitat for Humanity. These liens are obviously causing title clouds, which have made the conveyance impossible at the time. So he's asking if we can do something with regards to these 2 other liens. As far as I know, these are still Washburn and 205 Webb Street, and these are estimates because they're ongoing. And the one on Webb Street is a little over $21,000, but they continue to accrue. The assessed value of the Carver Drive property is $7,500, according to the property appraiser.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. And we do have the applicant here, or the person who is seeking this relief. And so without objection from the board, I would go ahead and recognize him to hear the comments. Mr. James O'Toole. Please approach the podium, and you'll be recognized for 3 minutes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for this time. I've been in for quite a while trying to help Habitat for Humanity secure properties, because under the this current urban infill.
Can you move that mic over? I'm sorry. Yeah, there we go. That's better.
Under the current this current infill, a lot of high value, high dollar residences are being built, and these low accessible properties are being pushed further and further out. So I've been trying to work with Habitat's plight because they can't buy a quitclaim property with problems. RTD transfer. That's the only way it can work for them. So I've been trying to, and there's another person has been trying to get these properties cleaned up for them so they can get a proper transference of title so that they can implement their program. They are significantly under inventoried, because all these lots are being snatched up, which is what's happening. You want to deal with, homeless people, good people are being pushed out because they can't find affordable housing. This process has been very daunting in trying to get this thing cleaned up to transfer to Habitat. I think you've got a great staff, and I think that they should be able to clean these things up almost administratively, and that there should be a more streamlined process. Because serial, like 5T Wealth, they've got dozens and dozens of violations in this county with no intent to clean them up. They're selling them, and you're kind of on your own. Made a lot of inquiries with the county, trying to determine the level of problems on these properties, and submitted dozens to them. And this, but clearly I didn't have an understanding of cross liens. I figured I clean up the liens on this one, I'll be fine because I have no control over those other properties. So what I'm asking is that we can clear this up, at least get one more lot to Habitat, and hopefully, we can come up with a better process to maybe help up these, clear up these other properties that are just lying fallow and are problems in our community. So anyway, really all I wanted to say. Was there any questions?
Yes, I'm sure we will have, will you hold his time for us, Sam, just in case? And Commissioner Underhill, you'll be recognized. This is in your, okay. Commissioner Barry, did you have something?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
I'm certainly interested to hear what Commissioner Underhill has to say about this specific case and this issue. But I'm going to agree with something Mr. O'Toole said, that there should be concerns about this process.
Yes.
A nonprofit is using a conduit to successfully implement their programming. I know leadership changes. I didn't like the way they divested lots years ago. I don't like the way this process is. I don't like the fact they're using conduits to acquire property and manage it this way. If that's a process, Allison, that our board can undertake something different for the way that we deal, whether it's Habitat specifically or Housing Finance Authority, or I'm not as intimately familiar with all the agencies that may be trying to do this, but whatever agencies are trying to do this, I would much rather be dealing with the agency requesting something from us,
right,
and taking a middle person than us almost, and what concerned me the last time it came up was it seemed clear to me at that time that there was an arrangement prior to the acquisition of these properties that he was going to divest them to Habitat at, I presume, a certain price. That's part of an agreement. You've got a time frame, you've got a price, you've got the collateral being exchanged. And then I believe somebody from Habitat said, well, we didn't have a deal ahead of time. I think it sounds, not only was there a deal ahead of time related to this property, it sounds like it's that there's a system. There's perhaps multiple parties that are kind of being used as, or availing themselves as conduits to help Habitat acquire property. And then asking the board for help. If helping infill housing and these types of things is something our board is interested in, which I do think we are, that should, in my opinion, that should be our board dealing with Habitat,
right,
rather than this mechanism.
Yeah.
And so
a profit and
Not
so I'm just not clear
so
on the
there
process.
have been, well, it depends on what you do. I mean, if you're just severing out this property from these other two liens, then no, you're essentially not recouping at this, as part of this conveyance, really anything. Those liens still remain active on these other two properties. In fact, they're still accumulating.
But on that property that we've done this multiple times. So we waive the liens, so an investor can sell the property to Habitat. Obviously, I guess there's some type of transaction, which is an acquisition of land, the selling of a house to a resident. For me, when I'm waiving these liens, I'm all for waiving them. But at the end result, I have a affordable housing crisis in Escambia County. So if I waive this, how am I maintaining affordability, and how is that ROI getting back to the end user being the citizen? So are we discounting it, or are we tracking it, or no, we just waive it and it goes on and it's just the same process that they would use on any other property that they acquire?
It's making the business model for Habitat easier. So to that end, it does help them get their product on the ground. So to that end, the partial release of this property is helpful to that end.
But so it's helping the model easy. My question would be, if they just bought it directly, a piece of property from John P. Q, and they bought this piece of property and got lien relief, would the citizen be paying the same?
Yeah.
Well, that would be contingent upon my support.
Yeah, so there have been previous boards who took the attitude that Habitat had to be the owner before they could come in here and ask for relief on liens, which means it has to be dealt with at the time of the acquisition, which means to pay off the lien or convey it or escrow it. Something has to happen so as part of that conveyance. But obviously you don't have to do that. You have a lot of discretion with these.
Can I just say one thing? I'm not an investor here. I'm simply working with them to clear up these properties. I'm not making a profit on this. It's just that every time I have to settle a lien, I paid all the back taxes, all the tax deeds. the $6,000 in liens for this property, I'm not asking to be relieved from this. I've already paid for the lien relief on this property. I'm asking to be detangled from ones I have no control over, trying to get a clean property
Yes,
for
sir.
Habitat.
Mr. Toole, but you did have control over the voluntary acquisition of the property that came with the cross lien enforcement. You're not an uninvolved victim in the scenario.
Well, I'm involved, I'm uninvolved in maybe in my, not understanding the process. Because when I was in the negotiation with the county and I contacted, for known problems in emails, with Mr. Day, and he's familiar with this. I gave him a list of properties I was trying to get for Habitat. And and then I was sent that, a lien release agreement. If I paid $6,000, they would remove this lien from 35 Carver. In my, I would say ignorance, I thought that was sufficient to clear this property. Not that I would be assessed for properties I have no control over that are cross-liened. And even the counties, they just can't do it within their existing process.
So are you an employee of theirs?
I am not an employee. I'm just somebody who's trying to help. I've been developing a relationship with them, with Mr. Kane, who's their acquisitions guy. I do a lot of wetland work for them pro bono. I'm an environmental consultant. So when they have properties that they're looking at, I look at their properties for free and tell them if they're going to have any environmental issues. So in this relationship, I've been trying to help them with their plight of acquiring properties. I have nothing to gain from this transaction. In fact, I'll probably end up losing from this transaction. All I'm asking for is to get untangled from two properties I have no, no connection to. Get this one done. I have a letter from Habitat. We have an agreement, and they're waiting for this thing to get to where it can be a transferable title. And the likelihood of me ever trying to do and help them again, I don't know if I can I can't take the stress and the risk. There needs to be a better policy, and I agree with you. There shouldn't have to be a middleman. But there's absolutely no way for Habitat to buy a quitclaim property with entanglements. It's not in their process. They have to have a transferable title, and the only way to do that, there's another gentleman like me that's doing it basically pro bono to try to get them these properties that they can develop. And was I naive to think that I wouldn't have to deal with cross liens on properties? I didn't even understand what that meant, and in the county, some of the staff didn't understand it either. So it's not liens we can understand. Forgivable liens are, an odd situation to have multiple properties. It shouldn't have even been a transferable, even under quitclaim. I know what you're saying is, I'm a grown-up boy, I should have known. But a lot of these things, they're difficult to understand.
Well, that's not exactly what I said. You just said that you didn't do anything. Well, you voluntarily acquired the property. So, you're involved. I wouldn't ever state anything that way, Mr. O'Toole. But I'm sorry.
This new, Mr. O'Toole, I recognize that you said that they can't do it within their current policies and practices. Well, that's their business. They created for themselves. I am still trying to figure out why it's better for them and why they've gone down this path of having outside partners that they essentially, as a volunteer, I guess, you say that you're not being paid for your services.
Yeah.
You're not profiting anything from this. You're not the first person to. There's been a long history of some conduct that requires. I agree with what Commissioner Berry said, that this practice seems wrong. It seems like it's creating room for not being transparent, which is always going to be something I'm going to push back on. The insinuations or statements that our staff didn't understand. I'm sorry, we've been doing this comes before our board at least once a month, something like this, and the policies, the practices of this board are very, very clear. with regard to our liens and the spidering of liens, or the encumbering other properties as a way of trying to pin down the bad actors. And we know, of course, you're not one of those bad actors. We recognize, and I recognize as we look at this, that you're not the one who violated these. You're not the violator. You do not have any control over the violator, so there's nothing that we can't put the screws to you in any way that will enable you to go out to the that can get those repeat offenders, the words you used, great words, to straighten them up. The only thing that will do that is an aggressive approach from this board to not allowing them to continue to carry these liens indefinitely, and that's really what we're doing. They're more or less indefinite. We very rarely take the low-income housing. I'm totally good with all that. What we're doing right now, though, this thing of being able to say, because see, Habitat couldn't stand there and say, oh, dang, we didn't know about this whole cross thing. So they've got you doing it where you can claim that level of ignorance. I'm struggling with that immensely, and I'm not disagreeing. You probably are. But they put you in that position. They should have explained that to you before they let you go off on and do their bidding for them. So yeah, that's a bit of a problem. And Commissioner Berry, I agree 100% that this board needs to come up with some other model for how we handle this. These forms, to some extent, it's a little bit, I would say, and I'd accept part of the blame that it's being done this way because we don't have a good policy and practice for it. And I'm not necessarily focused on trying to funnel property over to Habitat that can help us with counter gentrification efforts here in Escambia County. So I'm wide open to hear that, to move us in that direction. So, but that brings us to this matter that's before us now. That I always factor into is the applicant the violator. If the applicant is the violator, conversation takes a different tone. Applicant in this case is not the violator. Second thing I ask is the property in question completely compliant? And I'm seeing a north-south head nod from Tim that this property is in fact 100% in compliance.
Staff in our house have input, Claire, from your office and from Tim on this policy. Not this individual, Mr. Tools, because I think you're doing a great job. It's not my problem, Mr. Chairman, but here's the problem when you assess a lien. If you assess a lien because I'm driving without license, you leave my house, nope, that never gets waived. When you assess because I got a ticket, we have all other liens. If people violate, they go to jail, they get liens, they can't get jobs, it messes up their credit. This is the only thing process in which we started waiving liens because we say it's just for the benefit of the community. I have a whole problem with that because it's not unilateral that we're releasing liens. Particularly, I have poor people every day that come to my office because they can't get driver's license because they got a lien because I don't buy it. And we have friends at Habitat. I don't buy that Habitat can't get a clear title. We have a process that we pay for clear titles. You can't tell me that an individual, I serve on 3 housing boards, and they're all not-for-profits, and we can all get clear title to properties. Why wouldn't Habitat be able to get a clear title?
I don't know exactly I'm not sure what's going on with them. I do know Clark Partington historically has been counsel to them. I see Ms. Bush is here. I don't know if she knows
I
if
see
that's
Meredith
still a
here.
plan. Yeah.
If any attorney tell me why a not-for-profit can't get a clear title to a piece of property, tell me why.
They can, it's just costly.
Oh, wow. Okay. Is that the justification why this process, because it's costly?
I don't know why they're doing it this way. We have in the past dealt directly with Habitat. Recent years we haven't. I don't know the reason why they've changed.
Well, if legal counsel don't know, Mr. Chairman, I don't make as much as she does, so I know I can't figure it out. But it'd be good to get that answer.
It would be good. Okay, well, we've discussed it, we've talked about it. Commissioner Underhill, this is in your district. Are you prepared to make a motion, or, I think I can support if you were leaning toward releasing this gentleman from the property. I know that that's something I can certainly support based upon what I've heard in this discussion.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mr. Chairman. My inclination is I'm sitting here just trying to figure out what's you get Mr. Toole here, he has sort of been used as an avatar, in my opinion, by Habitat. Okay, I'd like to, and I'm not saying you're a victim, so no need to defend on that. It's just.
Doug, can I ask one question for you?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Is this the first time you've ever done this process with Habitat, Mr. Toole?
The first time and probably the last time, although I will be involved I mean, seriously, Habitat is a wonderful organization that I am going to assist when I retire. But I do believe that there's more to this. You know, this is just like, I don't mind being kind of an avatar for them at this point. I want to say they're relatively blameless. We're trying to partner to get them lots.
As a private individual or a real estate company, or who you say we, who's we?
David Kane, who's the acquisitions person at Habitat, and I have been on the phone countless times on countless lots, trying to get them.
So they identify the lot and then they direct you to go buy the lots. Is how that works? How does it work?
No. I look at lots for them that they're looking for, to deal with their wetland issues and make sure they're not buying something that has state and federal implications.
So you work for them?
I do pro bono. I do free work for them when they have these lots come in, and Dave says, hey, can you go take a look at this and see if there's going to be any problems with it? And I take care of them.
Right.
So.
And on this particular lot, you went to look for it for them. And
I pulled a list. Do you want to see the process? I pulled a list of lots that were available, and I sent them to the county to see what, potentially was against them. And as far as. I think that really ended up being more like.
So Stacy, this is a lot that we had in our inventory. Oh, it wasn't. Oh, okay. I thought he said.
And just to reiterate that I paid all the hard costs plus some on this particular lot, so I'm not looking to get out of a handout. I just don't want to be attached to things I have no control over that are other lots.
Right.
But I do think that it's important that Habitat in the county comes up with a more streamlined. I don't want to be the middleman on this. I get nothing out of this except for heartache and potential financial loss. And I know that makes it hard to believe that that I'm not doing this to benefit myself. I believe so strongly into that program that there has got to be a better way. And Habitat has they have a frustration level when you say you can't believe that they can't get clear title to these properties. They don't have the ability to go back. I mean, they would have to do the same thing I would have to. They would have to do the same.
Absolutely, they would. Yeah.
And
no one's questioning that they would have to do the same process.
Yeah.
Right.
And and I guess you'd have to ask them exactly. But I just know that they can't acquire these properties and go through this process on a scale I think that is required. And with this current relationship between the county and them, and I don't know all the inner workings between you guys and Habitat. I'm just here, volunteer. I'm trying to get them a lot. You won't see me here again trying to make the same argument again because I can't, frankly, deal with the exposure of the time and the money constraints. But I will help them any way I can, volunteering.
Right. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. I mean, I think Tim's somewhere around here. I hope Claire may be able to drag him down for a question, but that's fine. Whatever you want to do, Doug.
Mr. Chairman, to put a bow on this, I will say that, all these statements that have been made to Commissioner Berry, I think, actually led it off very well. I'm still, when I started off as a commissioner, I had a really positive impression of Habitat, and I wish I could still say that I did. But having said that, what is the core? What's the core issue here? What does this come down to? The applicant is not the violator. The applicant didn't do anything wrong. The applicant did not put a community at risk by bad behavior as a property owner. The second thing is the committee or the citizen is financially whole on this property, plus some. That is almost never the case. In fact, I think that may be the first time. So the individual that is making the application did in fact put cash on the table to make the Escambia citizen whole for the work that we did on that property. For that reason, I move that we provide the applicant lien relief in the form of releasing the property at 35 Carver Drive from all other liens or cross liens on other properties to which the applicant has no ownership. We're basically just killing the cross liens. So taking the cross liens off on these other two properties and allowing this applicant to go ahead and move forward with the sale of this property.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second to the motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Robert, your light's on? You good? Okay, all right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no other lights on, please vote.
Madam Council, can you take some of the discussion that we've had as enough impetus to discuss this with Council for Habitat?
Absolutely. I'll verify the status of the Clark Partington. If it's not them, I'll find who it is now.
And not Clark Partington. I know, as I said earlier, Tim Evans works for us now, and he may be the person that implemented this. I don't know, but I'm sure he would have insight to sit down with you and Claire to talk about it.
Mr. O'Toole, your issue passed, so congratulations, and thanks for your time today. Yeah, Tim, did you have something?
I'll just want to let the board know, I'll coordinate with Claire and we'll reach out to Habitat to make sure that we don't.
Yeah, we're doing 4, well, maybe one day after 8 years, but we're doing 4 houses with Habitat. One day it'll get accomplished. So we are working with them. So I know there's a lot of conversation with them on lots.
And I want to thank you too. And if a citizen's advisory input, I know the process. I would be glad to also act on behalf of concerned citizens to the benefit of Habitat. But I think ultimately, if it benefits Habitat, it benefits the county.
All right,
and
sounds
that's the
good.
bottom line. So.
Sounds good.
I'll vote for you, Mr. Toole.
Second the motion. All right. Number
Mr. Chairman?
9. Yes, Commissioner May.
Just in case I don't see it on the agenda, but if there's anything sensitive, I have a quitting time at 11:15 because I have an engagement.
That means we got to rock and roll, man. We got to move quick.
All right, so I'll be leaving at 11:15.
Okay.
At the
very
latest.
good. All right. Did the clerk's office receive the proofs of publication of the public hearings of the agenda and the board's weekly meeting schedule?
Mr. Chairman, the clerk's office has received all proofs.
Move that we waive the reading.
Second.
Motion and second to waive the reading. Please vote. All right, motion to waive the reading passes unanimously. Okay, next up, we have the clerk comptroller's report.
Quickly, we
Yep.
have the investment report for December 2021. The other 3 are routine, which is the redistricting minutes, some documents that were filed with board minutes, as well as the minutes to meetings. Thank you.
All right.
Move the clerk's report in its entirety.
Second.
Motion and second to move the clerk's report. Please vote. All right, clerk's report passes unanimously. Next up, we've got growth management. Of course, we're going to take these one by one with this new system. We don't want any issues. We've got a number of speakers on these, and we're going to go slowly. On the very first one, Horace, as I discussed with the staff yesterday, I'm gonna ask my board to support me in dropping Z 2021-09 out of deference to a member of the public who lives and had planned to be here when our meeting got rescheduled and was not able to because of her work schedule. Unless, did I see that she's here? Let me see. All right.
She's here, she is here.
Tracy Solt, are you here?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well then, disregard what I just said. We'll go right through it. Okay, we're gonna hear from the public. Horace, go ahead.
Yes, sir. The first rezoning case is Z 2022-02 from low-density residential to commercial. The planning board made a request, made a recommendation for approval.
Oh, you can move it after we hear from the speakers, yeah. Okay, very good. Let me see here. I believe that we have a number of speakers on. The first one we're taking is 2022-02, so we have one speaker, James Hughes.
I don't see what he.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'm not speaking.
Okay.
I'm part of it.
Okay, all right. So you're waving in support, I'm assuming?
No, I have, yeah, I want support.
Yeah, okay, very good.
I'm one of the owners of the property.
Okay, very good. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just because I think we requested and now that conversation gone, Tim Evans is here. Can we just excuse him since we left that item from Habitat? He walked in. I know I asked Claire to get him, but the item's gone now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
Tim,
thanks.
we don't need you now, but we will be needing you on this issue. I think the attorney will begin with you and Claire.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Okay, then let's go ahead and hear from the other speakers. Meredith Bush.
She's on the next one. This is Mr. Page, and
Okay.
Mr. Page was unfortunate he was not able to be here this morning.
Okay.
I did speak to him.
So the chair will entertain a motion on 2022-02.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the planning board recommendation to approve case number Z 2022-02.
Second. Okay, motion and a second on that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Okay, Z 2022-02 passes unanimously. Okay, next up.
The next rezoning case is Z 2021-09, from low-density residential to low-density mixed-use. The planning board made a recommendation for approval.
Okay, and Ms. Solt, you're recognized. Would you like to speak to this item? Thank you for being here.
Right.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Never done this before, so I'll try to go along the process. My name is Tracy Solt. I live at 11598 Aruba Drive. That is in District 1. I'm here to speak about the proposed change from LDR to LMU for this property. Just a couple facts, and to use some words that I've been hearing from the commissioners. This property owner voluntarily made an acquisition of this property when it was as an LDR, and then after purchasing it, then wanted to change it to something else. After the property is zoned as LDR, the property owner filled it up. It looked like a junkyard for a little while, but I know that that's not a favorable comment to hear, but that's what it looked like until I came to the planning meeting, and then they cleaned it up a little bit. But they were notified of their violation, and as I understand, I don't know if they ever paid a violation. Instead, what they did was ask for the property to be zoned differently. I think that's disrespectful to the people in the area. You move in, you buy something that's residential, and then you want it for something else. I think that, okay, what I was going to read is, and to me, at the planning committee, the property owner pleaded ignorance to Commissioner Underhill's comment earlier. You can't really plead ignorance to not knowing. And if you read section 3-2, tax 6, the purpose of a low-density mixed unit establishes appropriate areas and land use regulations for a complementary mix of low residential compatible non-residential uses. The primary index is to provide a mix of neighborhood-scale retail sales and greater dwelling unit density. Additionally, an LDMU is intended to rely on a pattern of well-connected streets that provide for a separation of suburban uses from the more dense areas. This property is on Highway 98. It is not well-connected streets. And the permitted uses, I live in Manchester, the permitted uses are manufactured homes, parks, or subdivisions, single-family dwellings, and it would move from LDR, which is one residential per half acre, to LDMU, which is quarter acre, I think, which is 4 per quarter acre. And what I would say is, it is not, I am the president of the Homeowners Association in Manchester, and so I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I have the support to speak for our group. I do not think and proposed zoning changes are supposed to be consistent. It is not consistent with the comprehensive plan. Most of the new houses that are there are subdivisions. There are some existing places that are there. The zoning district provisions, it is not consistent. It's currently zoned LDR, and so are the places around it. It's not compatible with the surroundings. There's a car wash on one side of it, but on the other 3 sides of that property are residential areas. And from the planning meeting, they said it was not appropriate for spot zoning. And Commissioner May, I just want to say thank you to you. This is separate from anything, but the compassion and you made eye contact with those 2 ladies that were in here that didn't have a lot of understanding of the process, and they were seeking help, and that humanistic, I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, that was very kind of you, Tracy. Thank you so much.
And I think I ran over my 3
Yeah,
minutes.
you did,
I
that's
tried to
fine.
go fast.
And I just want to say to you, I know you contacted the office, we had some scheduling issues with the board meeting, so it was my intention to seek the board to put this out till March, but I'm glad that you were able to work it out to be here today, and I appreciate you being here today to speak about your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know it's your district, but she was very kind. I would yield any minutes if she needed more time.
Do you need more time?
Well, oh, sure, thank you so much.
Wait, I thought you had to leave at 11:15. All right.
It's not 11:15.
No, I'm kidding. Please continue.
And I would just make a point that when I went to the Escambia County Planning Board, only 4 of the 8 members were present, and 3 voted yes and 1 voted no. And I think, and no one, it was noted in the minutes that no one from the planning board visited the site. And during the planning and zoning presentation, when the person's attorney, they did acknowledge that there was some disagreement that was not noted in the minutes. I went back and looked in the minutes, and that was not noted. And I think there was misrepresentation of the property use nearby, and I actually provided pictures as well to that planning meeting. And to me, I think, I don't have the money to afford an attorney to come here. The gentleman that owns the property, his business, it's Cito is what he owns. And the Cito business, he runs it out right by, under the Perito Bridge, that very expensive area. Our area is not as expensive, but what I think will happen if it's zoned differently, that our property value is going to go down. And we just paid off our mortgage in January, and so it's just very disappointing and sad to me that that's the consideration. And while this gentleman may be a decent property owner, doesn't matter. It's all those potential uses that do not fit in with that area. So I think that's it, unless y'all have questions for me. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. Thank you. All right. This is in District 1. I have driven by the property. I've been all around in that area. I went to a neighborhood watch meeting 2 weeks ago in that very, very similar area. And Ms. Solt, I will tell you, I'm now entering my 6th year on the board. I've got a very diligent member of the planning board who looks things up and down, side to side, and I never look behind him. I never call him. I never tell him what to do. Just like my appointee on the Island Authority. They went through the process. They followed the code, and they voted for approval. And so what I've done on this board, even when there's been multiple speakers against it, is I've not tried to insert myself into that process, because then things get stymied. You do the yo-yo thing, well, let's send it back to the planning board. Those folks are volunteers. They're very diligent in their effort. If you went to the meeting, then you're well aware of the fact that they do take, they don't come in, drink coffee, press the yes button. They go on deep dives. They're very, very good. As you heard, if you were here, we have many members of that board that have been on there for longer than a decade. So when they come back with a recommendation for approval, and I'm not hearing a lot of dissent, I mean, I understand that you're against it. The decision that I have to make is to follow the process. And when we stop following the process, things fall apart. When we start listening to a few voices of dissent, then we have issues. I get it. There's been a lot of issues near my house that have happened that maybe I'm not wild about, but this is a growing community. A lot of people want to move to Florida. A lot of people want to move to Escambia County. As you heard my counterparts discuss, we have an issue with housing. We have a tremendous problem with the affordability of housing. And so if we stop approving everything that some people don't want, it's just gonna magnify the issue. So I'm going to support the planning board here. I think did you want to waive in support, or do you want to still speak? Because I think we're on the verge of doing something here. Do you want to waive in support, or do you want to, we could always wait a month. I mean.
No, I don't wish to. I do wish for your support, so if it's simply waiving in support, then I'm happy to do so. If you'd like me to address some of the comments that Ms. Salt had, then I'm happy to do that as well.
I don't think that's going to be necessary. We have one more speaker that just added, but he did not speak at the planning board meeting, which means he cannot speak, correct? Correct. No, I'm sorry, you already had your time. At this point, this is my district. I've expressed my opinion. If someone's willing to move it, the chair would entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the planning board recommendation and approve case number Z2021-09.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the discussion. We're going to move forward there. Horace, you recognized?
The next item is the adoption of the official zoning map.
All right.
Move the 9:15 hearing.
Second.
Motion second on 9:15. Please vote.
Do we have any speakers on 9:16, Joe?
No, we don't.
Okay.
All right. All right, the 9:15 passes unanimously. Chair will entertain a motion on the 9:16.
Move the 9:16 affirmative.
Motion second on the 9:16. No speakers. Please vote.
Do we have any more speakers for the rest of GMR?
Let me take a look here. This computer system is not user-friendly. We don't have any more for GMR. Okay, we have no more speakers for GMR.
But we do have an issue with Iron Rock. Yes, sir.
All right,
It's
Mr.
supposed to be
Chairman,
tabled.
for the remaining action items, I move items 1 and 2 and drop item 3. Can we reschedule that for next Thursday?
Yes, sir. They asked for it to be scheduled on the 17th of this month.
All right, move item 1 and 2, item 1, A through E, item 2, A through D, and reschedule item 3 to February 17th.
Second.
Motion is second on that. Please vote. You got all that, Dylan? All right. Outstanding. Horace?
Do we have a consent agenda?
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
We're racing ahead. All right, here we go. Bang. All right, consent agenda passes unanimously. Next up, we have the County Administrator's Report. Wes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 10 items on the technical public service consent agenda. There are no changes.
All right, do we have any speakers on the technical? Okay, any gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to hold?
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent agenda if there's no issues with colleagues.
Second.
Motion is second. Robert, you're recognized.
Yeah, can we hold 9? And I just want to make a comment on 8 real quick. I know we're just scheduling the hearing, but the fee amount is stated in statute, so we have to either charge this or we can't charge anything at all.
Okay,
So I would have liked it's not where I would have probably preferred to go, but I think it's a good use, but in statute is what says what the fee is.
All right, so we're going to hold 8 and 9, or?
No, just hold 9.
Just hold 9, okay. Chair will entertain an amended motion.
That's the motion, hold 9.
Second.
Motion second. Please vote. All right, car 1 passes unanimously, with the exception of number 9. We're at number 9. Commissioner Bender, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just say on some of these, I know there's just some Scrivener errors and things, but I thought if they're open, we might just see about cleaning them up a little bit. With the one related to the committee of the whole, it says that we'll meet the 2nd and 4th Thursday of each month.
Second?
And 4th, yeah.
No, second, just the second.
Just the second.
We don't need 2 of those.
And then also with regard to the
Robert, before you go,
Yeah.
can someone make note of this? Because if it's reasonable, we want to incorporate that into the motion. Okay, okay.
And then the Centurion just says that they would be honored during the 2nd BCC meeting of the month. I think if they can make it to the first one, I don't have any issue with taking it in the first meeting. I know we did one a couple months ago with Miss Ida turning 100, so.
Yep.
I would just say that it doesn't have to be in the 2nd BCC meeting of the month.
Okay, we can make that change. It's pretty easy.
Is that your motion, Commissioner?
That'd be my motion.
All right, motion is second on 9. Any other discussion, please vote. And we got those changes.
Thank you, Board.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't need a fourth meeting of the month. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, next up, we got CAR 2, Budget Finance. Wes, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 24
Mr. Chairman?
items.
Yes, uh-oh. What's
Sorry, I don't have a vote from Commissioner May on this
Uh-oh.
item.
Commissioner May, you got a vote? All right, here we go. All right, that one passed unanimously. You got it now. All right, sorry, Wes, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 24 items on the Budget Finance Consent Agenda. Please make the following change, drop CAR 2-21.
Okay, 2-21, which was the change order for the library, has been dropped. Chair would entertain a motion.
Move balance.
Do we have any speakers, first of all?
Isn't one of them an or?
No speakers for CAR 2. Okay, so.
Second motion.
Motion second to approve the balance? Is that where we're at? Okay, motion second to approve the balance, please vote. All right, CAR 2 passes unanimously with item 21 dropped. All right, next up, we are on CAR 3 discussion items. We'll take them one by one. Wes, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CAR 3-1 is the recommendation concerning an appointment by the mayor of the city of Pensacola to the West Florida Public Library Board of Governors.
Any speakers on that one? All right, we have no speakers.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. All right, Wes?
Commissioners, CAR 3-2 is recommendations.
We need Lumen's vote, sorry. Oh, it just came through, it's unanimous. Okay, now you're up, Wes.
The recommendation concerning approval of assessment of liquidated damages for construction of the Escambia County Correctional Facility. We do have speakers.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please, Allison.
This case is already in active litigation. The county has been served in a multi-count complaint.
Yes.
I strongly advise the board at this time to refrain from making comments. We will be reviewing the possibility of scheduling a shade meeting for you all, which we are entitled to do at this point because it is an active litigation. I point out that counsel for the contractor is present and has asked to make a presentation to you all, so I'm just reminding you to please try to refrain from making comments during the meeting today. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that, and I see that we have two speakers here to speak on this, and obviously we're going to hear from you, but please don't take it the wrong way if we don't respond, because obviously we've heard what our attorney says, and we have to be very, very careful with what we say up here, because as you know, it'll get used against us. So you feel free, don't take it the wrong way if we don't respond to you, but feel free to come and make your 3 minutes on the clock, 3-minute presentation. And
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend much time, and it's good to see Rob, but we can't comment. I want to get in a shade meeting and figure out what we got.
And I agree with you 100%, but I want to give them the courtesy they
Oh,
said.
yeah, no, I wanted to speak. I just wanted to just give Rob that respect, but, I mean, I have a lot of unanswered questions, and so we have a shade to do it.
And Mr. Chairman, just as a reminder, Ms. Lucan did provide a written letter that I did distribute by email to the board a couple days ago.
Yep,
So
we have it.
I just wanted to make sure that you all were aware that's the same presentation, I believe.
So you're recognized for 3 minutes. Welcome to the board, and thanks for sitting through the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alicia Lucan, I'm an attorney with Smith, Curry & Hancock. I represent Whitesville Green Cadell JV LLC, who is the design builder on the new Escambia County Courthouse. As your counsel has indicated, this is currently in active litigation. The reason I am here today is because this was noticed on your public agenda, and the item that is on your public agenda is a recommendation that you approve the withholding of retainage and liquidated damages against my client in the amount of $3.4 million. I did provide a written statement, so I'm not going to reiterate all of that, but I guess what I would really like to convey is this. The county has already been withholding retainage, and it has already assessed liquidated damages. This happened back in August of last year. We have written letters, we have sat down with the county, we have engaged in a mediation, a formal mediation process where we hired a mediator and actually did this. It was somewhat of a surprise to us to see this on the agenda because as far as we're concerned, this has already occurred. We would love to have the opportunity to figure this out. Our primary concern here is that this $3.5 million, most of it is not even our money. It's for our subs. I have a listing here of a number of local subcontractors. There's Chavers, we've got Ed Emmons, DPF Construction, Acousti. The list goes on. These are folks that haven't been paid because of this withholding. We think the withholding is wrongful. We still think there's an exit ramp for the county here. We have filed a lawsuit, but only because we've spent 6 months having discussions with county staff on this issue. The final thing I would like to say is the county staff here is really making a serious error. The prior county staff, and before I came here today, I actually looked at some of your prior commission meetings on this project. Back in November of 2020, you had county staff here sitting in front of you saying, there's already 120 days of delay due to COVID. Okay, that was before the project was even completed. Now, we fast forward almost a year later, and the county staff position is there's only 33 days of delay due to COVID. That's just not right. We've submitted ample documentation of this. We've provided a critical path method analysis showing that COVID ended up delaying the substantial completion of this project. We've also shown that this is excusable and that there was nothing we could do other than what we did, which was make a valiant effort to finish this project. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I do want to ask if you have any questions, but I understand your counsel's advice not to respond to it. We would suggest that you do not approve this recommendation from the staff.
I have a question. Ms. Lucan, I see that the 3 minutes that was allotted is over, but I want to make sure, I want to ask you, have you been given the opportunity today to say everything that you wanted to say?
No.
Then I would ask you to state anything else that you believe that is appropriate for this point in the effort.
Well, I don't want to step on the toes here of your counsel's good advice. And your counsel's good advice to you was, you shouldn't be talking about this in a public forum right now because we filed a lawsuit.
Yes, ma'am.
So
that's separate from you having the right, particularly as the petitioner, to speak and be heard. So I'm just asking if you've been given all the opportunity that you need to state what you wish to state today.
Yes, and I understand what you're stating, Mr. Vice Chair, and I appreciate it. I guess I would say this. You should not approve this recommendation. It's the horse has already left the barn on this one. We've already filed a lawsuit, so I would say that it's probably pointless at this point. Pretty much everything else I would like to say is set forth in the letter that I provided to your counsel and also in the written complaint that we filed in Escambia County Circuit Court.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
All right.
And I believe I have with me Mr.
Rob Fabro. Yep, we know Rob. Rob, come on up. You're recognized.
Everybody knows Rob.
Hello.
Hello.
Robert Fabro, 3901 Idlewood Drive. I would just like to tell you all that we are not asking for any additional money for this project. We've lost millions because of COVID and the delays we encountered with staffing issues, like I'm sure y'all had staffing issues as well. At least we heard that earlier. And your new folks that are just getting involved, I can't blame them because they told us that you all were telling them to withhold this money for, I don't know what, but, and regardless, you're not hurting me. We're already hurt. You're hurting the Nelsons, you're hurting the Pensacola Glasses, because they will not be paid if they don't get this money that they have already earned. Not asking for more. We're just asking what was already budgeted from FEMA and Escambia County to build this project. And if we go to a jury trial, which is where we're heading, you're going to be fighting a bunch of small contractors that couldn't find enough people and get material quick enough during a global pandemic. So please don't approve this. This could be settled really quickly if you all hired a scheduling expert and reviewed it with our scheduling expert. And not cost the county any more money in a 2-year jury trial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fabro. Okay, so there's no action necessary here, Madam Attorney?
So-
I think the action should take place in a shade session.
For the discussion, absolutely. I point out that your administrative staff is following historical precedent to have the board bless the amount of the liquidated damages. We have in the past done that. That is not in your ordinance, so you're not legally obligated to do that.
No, I don't think we should. Let's go ahead and schedule a shade session.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yes,
thank you, Mr. Fabro. Thank you, Ms. Lucan. Appreciate you being here. Next item, Wes, you recognized.
Yeah, CAR 3-3 is a recommendation concerning E-date ordinances, and I would ask Ms. Rogers to advise you on that.
Commissioners, E-dates are an economic development tool that the county has used for quite a while. By Florida law, in order for you to be able to use an E-date, which is a waiver of some of the property taxes that a business might have to pay, you're supposed to get authority by referendum from the voters. That authority lasts for a decade. Your authority under your most recent vote will expire in December of this year. So this is being brought to you if you want us to bring back to you an ordinance that would be voted on by you all to direct the supervisor of elections to place this on a ballot during the 2022 year, which would be either the primary or the general election, then we're looking for direction from you all to do that. Or you certainly can choose to abandon or not pursue using this after December of this year and see how it goes. I do believe that there are currently only about 4 remaining active, previously granted E-dates. Most of them have expired or have recently have lapsed. So if you want this as a tool in your toolbox, tell us and we'll start drafting an ordinance to bring back to you all to get it on a ballot.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner.
Before I'm going to vote to direct her to bring back ordinance, I really would like for information to be brought back to have a discussion of how many E-dates we have, how much money have we spent on E-dates. I mean, what would have been the just an analysis of the E-date process of what we've done and the benefit. And it may very well be the most beneficial thing in the world. But at one time, I think we had an office, I remember Tanya Gamp, when she was working for Larry Newsom, we could periodically see a report of E-dates and the amount of taxes we would have gotten, the jobs that have been created. I mean, to just unilaterally say, go to an ordinance without at least having a discussion of has this been a benefit to this community over the last 10 years or has it been a detriment, I think is not responsible in my opinion. I would like to get that information. I think that should be provided before. I mean, I would like for it to have been provided, as part of the backup for today, but I would like to have that information.
Thank you. Commissioner Bender.
Sure. Commissioner, can they work on it concurrently? I mean, there's some information, there's 4 currently in place with Ascent Performance Materials expiring at the end of this year.
They can, Commissioner, in my opinion, and 3 of you can do whatever you would so choose. I'm saying that how that ordinance should be written should be determined about the success or the failures that we've had with the process. And so if she brings me all that data, or we evaluate that data with an ordinance that somebody that's not elected writes, and then I got to vote on it at that meeting, that's just not acceptable to me. But whatever the 3 of y'all want to do is fine.
Thank you, Commissioner May. Commissioner Bender?
Yeah. So I would, I definitely want you to be able to have that conversation before then. So I would say we need to get that information, but I think most of what's in the ordinance is pretty set. So.
And what's our time window look like here?
So the supervisor of elections is typically going to need, let's just ballpark it, 2 months prior to an election as a drop dead to have language that needs to go on a ballot.
What do we have to do before we get it to him? Do we have to do 2 separate?
You have to do an ordinance, so you need to schedule a public hearing to consider the ordinance and then vote on the ordinance. So
we don't have a whole lot of time because June, August is the primary, and then
or you could do it on the general, so that gives you more time. We could certainly put it on
but I want to be
and have
responsive to what Commissioner May says because I want to see the data too.
The data should be there. It should take all of 5 o'clock today to have the data. All of 5 o'clock. I mean,
So
all
Allison,
like
But
that.
now whether or not it's considered a successful economic development tool, I think.
That's up to us. Give me the data and we'll decide. I'll decide whether I think it's an economic development for my district or not, but they can give me the data. I mean, I can decide whether or not I believe it's economic development or not.
So Lumen, how about this? We take no action today. We direct the staff to, on the next meeting, bring us the information you've requested, and then we can make the decision at that point, which would be a week from today. A week from today should be more than time for them to get the
Right, I mean, it's a matter of picking up the phone and calling Scott Luke. I'm sure he'll send it over.
Yeah, so-
And we should have it ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it before. I know you mentioned it's a spreadsheet.
They just do it.
Yeah.
They show
It's out
everyone.
there.
Yeah, they show every one of the e-dates that we've had in the last 10 years, how many jobs were created. I mean, it's a simple Excel spreadsheet. That helps us. And I mean, that information should be presented to taxpayers anyway as a part of the collateral material to support moving this forward.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
mean, you can't expect for citizens to vote for something they're not informed on.
Absolutely. Commissioner Underhill, you recognized?
Yeah, I concur 100% with the things that Commissioner May has said. My concern that I've always had with e-dates is with all targeted tax breaks is that it doesn't actually decrease the overall tax burden. And in fact, in the case of e-dates, because the overall tax burden doesn't go down, but now somebody else does not pay their full share, it means that the remainder of the citizens that do pay taxes have to make up that difference. So it shifts the burden to those that are not receiving the e-dates. And the e-dates are something that historically have been available only to a very small, very wealthy few. And that seems to be something that does not protect the best interests of the taxpayer. So I know that probably not everybody shares that, and certainly if we're truly representative of the people of Escambia County, then you get 5 very different opinions up here, because across the citizens of Escambia County, there is a difference. But I think Commissioner May, you nailed the responsibility part of it, that if we're going to put this in front of the citizens to make a decision about it, then they should have the benefit of that discussion and watching the 5 of us work through that. So that they can then have enough information to formulate the hard questions that they should ask in exchange for their votes. So concur 100%, 100%.
All right, so Wes, you got guidance on that? So next week's meeting, we just need the spreadsheets, and then we'll have this discussion. We'll carry it on from there. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, we'll get it to you.
Okay, moving on to the next item today, recommendation concerning Hurricane Sally Fishing Bridge Memorandum of Understanding. Wes, you're recognized.
Yeah, this is this MOU that we do with FEMA. If they give us any money up front to replace the bridge, fishing bridge, and then we get money from Skanska, we basically have to repay FEMA because we can't double dip. That's the crux of the MOU.
All right, Robert, your district.
Yes, sir, thank you. I would just say, I mean, of course, it's not in our interest to double dip. I'd much rather get it from Skanska, so we don't have to pay the 12.5%, and the state doesn't have to pay their 12.5%.
Amen, brother.
But we also need to find a way to, find a way to be made whole and continue to have these assets for public use. And so I'll go ahead and move the item.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, please vote. All right, that passes 4-0 with Commissioner Underhill off the dais. Next one's a no-brainer. Lumen, do you want to talk about this as advertising for the testing and the vaccinations?
No, I mean, we had a discussion about the lack of testing in poor neighborhoods, and it's just some of the things that they're doing in other counties. So let's do it.
We want to go for 4 weeks or 8 weeks.
Yeah, make a motion. Let's.
And I can say this, I was informed yesterday afternoon that any money we spend, we can apply to FEMA and should get full reimbursement.
Let's just go 8 weeks. We'll move for 8 weeks.
8 weeks. Yep, got a motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
And thank PIO for working hard on this list for me, please.
Yes, sir.
David's doing a good job. Thanks, Dave.
All right, County Attorney's Report, the moment we've all waited for. All right, Allison, you're recognized.
Okay, so there are 4 action items on my report.
Okay.
I can take them individually, or we could take a motion on all 4.
I think we've all been.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no discussion, I can move all forward.
Okay,
Yeah,
no
let's do all
speakers on
four.
any of those? No?
Are you good with the national opioid litigation stuff, Robert? I mean, Ben, are you good with that? Okay.
I don't think we have much of a choice.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm good with it.
So Cat 1, we're taking the entire slate, that's the motion?
The 4 action items.
4 action items. All right, and do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the action items.
So, and I'm in full support, and I'm on CDAT board, and one of the things, so you'll know that I'm going to talk to the executive director, it's sort of what you said today about drug addiction, Jeff, about the guy throwing the food back, that this action plan, really has to understand that the opioid crisis has a direct correlation to homelessness, and they have to aggressively not just pamphlets, but actual implementing programs. So I'm going to be talking with them about receiving these funds, but to me, it can put the plan can be a little more aggressive.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, sounds good. Please vote. All right, Cat 1 action items passed unanimously. Now we're at Cat 2 discussion items. The first one I asked Allison to put this on the agenda. I had a big meeting with staff last week. We did a lot of hard work. We got the master plan approved. No one was really happy. That means it was a good compromise, but it's a red-hot real estate market, and the portion that would be the quote-unquote town center is valuable real estate, so I wanted to have a discussion on that topic. So that's what's here, but we do have a citizen who wants to speak on it, so I'm going to go ahead and call him up. Andrew Stewart. Is he here? Andrew Stewart. All right, he's obviously left the building, so no speaker on this. So anyway, the chair will entertain some discussion on this. We can't meet in private. I want to start selling this stuff. I want to start developing stuff to get the money to pay back the taxpayers that put the money in. This is very valuable real estate. Commissioner Berry recognizes.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So as we kind of go through the menu of what you've proposed, I'm good if what we're talking about is declaring the 84 acres surplus and beginning to divest it. I certainly support that. As we move forward, if even though we're going through this process with this 84, if we received an unsolicited offer for all of it,
I'd be all ears.
I'd certainly entertain that as well. I mean, it's going to come down to just the financial makeup of it. But for this direction today, I'm good with A. Let's see. C is going to be something that we'll have to clarify. What you're doing is you're saying we're going to need to provide data or provide feedback and clarify how we're going to do it. But if part of that clarification is whether it's going to be given or purchased, it's going to be, for my vote, it's going to be purchased.
Absolutely.
And then, the way the board ended up hearing the proposals related to the jail, I was okay with that process. They got, slimmed down to some smaller number that came to us, and I'm good with that. Because regardless of what, even our most senior-most staff, I'm still going to make the decision for what's going to happen out there for my vote. So without ranking, if we hear from 3, I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Okay.
The blackout period, whatever y'all want to do is fine. If you want to consider it blacked out, whatever the majority of y'all want to do, I think we waived that for the jail discussion so that we had some meetings with some of the teams ahead of time. That was okay. If most of y'all would rather, have it be more standard procurement where it's blacked out, where we just hear from them here, I'm good with that too. The acknowledging the CCNA stuff, I think that's a given. I am not necessarily interested in having anyone in between us and the master developer. I don't think that's necessary. Again, I think you're comfortable making decisions, as you and I have talked about up here a number of times. I think you're comfortable making decisions, and even if we engage somebody to help us vet proposals or something, I'm still going to end up making my decision anyway. So I would just assume let's stick it in, stick the for sale sign in the ground and divest it, and let's see what the private sector has to offer out there. I do think that if we bring back an item to kind of craft what we're going to put out with the RFP for the proposals, I think we would want to be clear that it's not just a financial decision. You know, if one offer is 10% higher than another, but as a board, we don't like the makeup of that development as much as we like the makeup of the other offer, then, you know, we're going to have the latitude, and based on conversations with Allison, we have a lot of latitude in that for what we deem the greater value. It's not just the acquisition value. There's going to be future property tax revenue. There's going to be future sales tax revenue from what activities go on the property. There's a lot of other revenues other than the acquisition, and we're getting out from, you know, we're starting to realize back some of these funds. I think it's a great idea. And that, like I said, the only thing that I, you know, kind of differ a little bit, or not even differ, but just you were putting out there for discussion. I'd rather us just, let's put it out there, see what the private sector says, let some senior staff folks maybe cull it down to 3, and then let us determine.
And I'm fine with that. And just, Commissioner Barry, just so you know, when I spoke with staff, I said I want to make sure that I put, you know, everything out there, multiple items, just to make sure we cover all the bases. And I fully anticipated that some would be pulled out, some might be added. So I appreciate your input. Sounds to me like B is something that you would prefer not to.
That's the only part of it. Yeah, that's the only.
Yeah, I can live without that either. I mean, I just like to say I wanted to cover all the bases. Commissioner Underhill, actually, was it? Yeah, Underhill and then May.
Okay, so total support for A, to include the comments that Commissioner Barry said, that if a proposal came in for property outside of the 84.47, I would want to entertain that as well.
Absolutely, yes.
With the understanding that we're focusing on this 84.47 now in accordance with the master plan. I am, because it's a fairly simple matter of, as Commissioner Barry said, putting the for sale sign on the ground, I believe that the staff is competent to draft a solicitation without outside assistance.
So
But if
B
the staff
is gone?
Well, if the staff tells us otherwise, Mr. Administrator, then certainly I would not want to, I would respect the staff saying, hey, you know, I'd rather have a professional help us out with that. I could support that either way. And then with regard to C, identifying specific criteria the board wishes, I would like to see us include in that, that the master plan as approved by the county, it should be the driving factor for the proposals. However, however, deviations from that based on reality on the ground and what a developer says might work would be acceptable. But if a proposal deviates from the master plan, then the burden of proof, the onus is on the proposer to explain why that better meets the goals of Escambia County, and why that's better for Escambia County. Definitely can't be required to purchase a surplus property. Yeah, you're in or you're out. you're in the game or you're out of the game, and the way you get in the game is to buy the land. Identify whether the board believe the board absolutely should be the selection committee for all the same reasons that Commissioner Barry just said. And 3 to 5 is satisfactory to me. Winnowed down by our staff, bring us the best 3 to 5. I do believe the blackout policy should be in effect, simply because anything that can be said in private, we'll have the opportunity to do that here. Let the best athlete win in front of the, in front of the crowd. So the blackout policy being in effect also has the effect of instilling, removing at least some possibility of accusations of bad conduct. We put it all takes place right here in this building with the cameras going. It's awful hard to say anything to the contrary. F, I think, is clear, and that covers it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner May?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing this forward. I think that this is one of the projects that Commissioner Perry and I probably based our initial campaigns on, because, 2 years before I ever ran for office, this was being discussed. So I'm glad, Jeff, that you're bringing it to a landing. So let me say, my number one priority, I'm going to yield to you and Commissioner Perry, quite frankly, on what you guys want out there. I think we do have $1 million in a master plan that has some credibility, some credence that we had, that, you had citizen input and we made some compromises. So I don't know if you abandon, that playbook all completely, but, coaches make decisions on the sidelines, and if you and Commissioner Berry decide to do that, although it's close to my district, it's in the heart of your districts. So I would support it. you're moving forward. But what's important to me, Jeff, is that we get an ROI, a great return on the investment. And for all of the citizens of Escambia County, when you lay down $17 million of all of Escambia County taxpayers, there should be a return on that $17 million that's distributed to all of Escambia County, not just those districts. So for me, we're not in the development business, but I'm not going to give the property away. We're going to make some money where we can put some sewer in the depressed neighborhoods or sidewalks. That's just important to me, that we get that, the most value. I can live with where they're going without the consultant. I say make whoever comes for the 84 acres, make them pay for the consultant. And as part of their presentation, when they come, you want to acquire the land, here's our master development plan, we include your plan. Here's what we'll do. This is what we'll do. And they'll bring the land planners, they'll bring the developers, they'll bring all that stuff in, and you won't put that on the back of us, and so we'll get it. I have my idea I do want to make sure that it's our discretion who we hire for the developers, because the makeup of the development team is important to me. Local capacity, vision, diversity, all those things go to me in terms of how I'm going to support. Now, going back to the jail, do we need some help, or do we need somebody on staff that's paying attention and that's not passing the buck? Because nobody knows when we put up millions of dollars to modernize, bring more technology to the jail, that was going to reduce personnel that never existed. No one told us at the time we were building the jail that, this is more of a prison model. But you know what? The very people that made the decision gave us that advice. They no longer sit in the seats, and we're still responsible for it. So, there were multiple mistakes that were made in that, none to our discredit, because we just didn't know, but we were going on advice on our owner's rep, all those things. We got too much in the development world, in a lane that we can't drive in. And so we need expertise, we need people with skin in the game, and it has to be something that if it doesn't pan out the way that you're telling it it's going to pan out, then there's going to be, some type of responsibility that's going to be given. So that's why I like the private side. I just don't like staff making a recommendation to me. God bless them, they're very competent, but people move on. By the time this thing is really out the ground, probably other than Robert, and maybe Steve, he's young, the three of us will probably be gone. Yeah, absolutely will be gone. But, still, the citizens will still be left on the hook. So we have to have teeth in it that gives the citizens the opportunity to say, you know what, promises made, promises kept. You know what, you said you're going to do this, but you did that. So here. And if you do that, Jeff, then you'll have all my support. The other thing, the blackout policy. I don't have any friends. I don't need to talk to anybody. That's fine. Do whatever you want to do with that. And so I'm good. I'm good with that, Jeff. As long as the plan is someone's gonna, a responsible developer that has some ties to the community, and they put the cost. All I want to do is sell the land, get the money, make sure it's within the plan, and concurrency or whatever that makes our district and our community look like the community that we want. And other than that, I don't have a problem. As long as we're going to get the money. I'm not interested in not recouping all of our money. I'm not going to vote for anything that doesn't recoup our money with interest.
We're going to recoup our money. You better.
And I think now's the time.
Now, exactly. So we got to get from the pretty pictures to money in the bank. That's where we're at. Robert, you're up.
Thank you. I think most everybody's in agreement with some things. My only additional comment would be, if there's any of this land that we need, that we identify that need now, if Scott Lunsford needs an office out there for DMV or something like that, that could be a bottom floor of some place out there. Sure. I know Fire's looking at some things that, in the very far future, not just what we have now. So,
but I would say the public portion is not included in the 84 acres that we're looking at here. We've got the other area where there could be a school, there could be things like you described.
Yeah.
So that's cool. But and those conversations I think will happen. But I think this is the immediate conversation. They're talking about 5 interest rates hikes this year. That's going to crush people's ability to buy. It's going to hurt the housing market. It's going to drive prices up.
I agree with everything else that was said. I was just saying, if it's better to have something that's a fire station that's 9 miles as opposed to being half a mile inside.
Yeah. Well, we're about to have one that's right on that.
No, I know.
So
groundbreaking coming up, isn't it?
What's that? Groundbreaking's coming up. We got the money, we're
And Rob, you make good points, and, you know, and certainly I'm all about whether we're gonna put fire or school or pub. But we can't put too much non-producing Avalon properties. I mean, because, I mean, you take non-producing Avalon properties and you put them in areas that other people may or may not go. I mean, you don't put them in things that can yield. We're talking about E-dates. You put those things, they spur development. Where you have an opportunity to do development, you utilize ROIs on the development. I mean, you know,
People will find their ways to where they need to be.
yeah, they'll find their way to a school or to a fire. They're not gonna, I mean, I've never understood it. I mean, you know, why do you take valuable property and put a public entity that?
Well, that's why we're not doing that today. That's a discussion for later, and.
Yeah, I'm sure. And nothing against what you're saying, Rob. I get it. But, you know, there's still plenty of land out by that way that can be utilized.
And so like I was saying, if there's a bottom floor of a mixed-use thing that we could use, something like that. I'm not saying, you know, I agree with everything you're saying, but apparently in the city of Tallahassee, they required that on their new development, I think around the stadium or something like that, that they had to have retail on the bottom. Now, I know I was a big proponent of the mixed use, but it was a requirement that they put in that you had to do this bottom layer of, and the rates over there, they can't get anybody to fill them at a very low rate. So now they have all this excess inventory and it's making it difficult to get some funding and things like that because of it being mixed use.
Right.
And so, like I said, I just wanted to make sure that before we give away something that, or not give away, but sell something that we have right now, it won't be any cheaper for us down the road to require it, so.
Well, we're going to do the best we can, but I do appreciate that. Robert, one clarification I want to ask. Are you, seems pretty unanimous, no one wants to get a consultant, hire a consultant.
Yeah,
So we're going to go to staff, okay. So beyond that, Commissioner Berry, yes?
Yeah, I was going to make a motion.
Oh, okay, great. Well, if I can just kind of, just so I understand, I think everyone is on board with A. I think folks are on board with the board identifying themselves as a selection committee. Blackout policy, I'm hearing that we want to keep it in effect. That seems like we all know about F. So you got that all into a motion?
Yeah, so I was going to move item A, move item C with, to be amended that the board would, I'm sorry. Well, the board would give that direction in the future for C, you know, very near future. Because we hopefully will get this, we'll hopefully, you know, we've got a lot of bodies now in purchasing, or, you know, as of very recently, I believe. So, you know, I think we're going to be able to turn some things out there more quickly. So hopefully we can get that out there quickly. Item D, the board would serve as the board would serve as a selection committee. The board would indicate an interest in the blackout policy being in effect. F and G stand as, or F stands as written, and that's the motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I appreciate the discussion, gentlemen, and I look forward to getting these parcels sold and getting that money in the bank. So please vote. Do you get the motion, Delaney? You got it? Okay, all right on. Outstanding, that passes unanimously. All right. The final part of this portion of Allison's agenda item is, Allison, I'll let you describe it.
Certainly, we had a discussion at the last board meeting. You have some, or I'm sorry, in January, the backup has two versions of a potential ordinance that the board could consider at a public hearing if you direct us to schedule one that addresses your employees and ability to run for elected office. One option that we've presented to you is that your employees and third-party employment agency placements would not be able to run for Board of County Commissioner seats, and that's what it's limited at. The other option that we put before you is that your county employees, your third-party employment placements could not run for county offices, which we defined as anything that affects Escambia County or the two incorporated areas of Escambia County, but not circuit-wide or state or federal offices. Those were two options that we're putting before you for discussion. We did have in the backup some of what some of the other counties do. We didn't find one where there was just a flat-out prohibition on any elected office, so that's why you have the two proposals that you have. But I'm here to listen to see what kind of feedback we have, and if you want to schedule a public hearing, we can take care of that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Allison. All right, Commissioner Berry, you had your light on, so you'll be recognized first.
Mr. Chairman, I'm certainly comfortable giving direction to schedule a public hearing to hear it. I do think that it should just be restricted to our stuff. I mean, I think that's, whatever we do is going to be restricted to our employees. I do consider our, whether they're specifically employees of a temporary agency or not, they're still our employees, they're still being paid for out of our budget. I consider those all our employees, but I do consider it to just be our offices. That seems like the extent of it.
Okay, no, but help me understand what you're saying. So you're saying, it sounds to me like you're leaning more toward option one, which would be the county employees would only be precluded for running from Board of County Commissioners, but not the school board, ECUA, city council, any?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I don't see what I don't know, it doesn't, there's rules with, there's rules with doing those other things, but assuming that either the employee or the supervisor is going to make sure that they follow the rules, which, we on some level have to just hope that happens. I think the real conflict and what creates, I think, a potential hostile work environment in a very negative feel in a holistic office, especially, closed spaces. And I mean, we're not in that intimate setting like employees are on a day-to-day basis, but it would seem like the real potential negative effect is when it's our seats.
Okay. So item one, I'm hearing, Commissioner Bender, you're recognized?
Sure. I'd say I know this came up a couple years ago. When I was new to the board, I know Janice was very surprised that we didn't have something in place already, much like the state does. I mean, the state won't even let you work on a campaign if you're employed with the state. So I know Alex said that his legislative aide had to resign from her position so she could work on his campaign last time. I think, we all know if you're doing it right, you're campaigning all the time. And so I think it is a good policy to have, and I'd be open to everyone else's direction on who to include, but I think it's like I said, something that we've discussed for a while, and because of a situation that was already in place, I didn't feel it was right to address it then, and taking it up now.
All right, very good. Commissioner Underhill, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioner. One of the things I think that's very unique about America is that we don't have a political class. Our political power, seats of power, are equally open to the very rich and powerful, as well as the commoner. And anything, in my opinion, that limits or in some way curtails who runs for public office is not, in my opinion, in the best interest of the citizens. Elections in America are and should be necessarily, very messy vettings of ideas. When you see political races in which the ideas and the issues never get argued, did we really accomplish anything during those campaigns? As I look out at the members of our staff that are here, and it's kind of noteworthy, it's almost everybody out there is on the clock. I look at a lot of people sitting out there that I think would do the jobs on this dais at least as well as the five of us ever have. Okay? On both sides, I've seen some amazing young people come through here and have gone on. I mean, one of my first interns is now a naval officer. We've seen that the experiences of knowing how government actually works actually turns out better people. It turns out people who are better consumers of government services, who have better expectations. So in my opinion, whatever cost of discomfort may come from having truly knowledgeable people running for office and vetting ideas in front of the citizens on Election Day, the benefit of having those folks in the race, and I'm talking to every one of you guys out there, because you guys, I'm telling you right now, you know and have seen things, and you are wholly qualified to lead your community up here, at least as qualified as you are to lead it in the seats that you're in now. So I would hope that this board make no action that in any way would limit anyone's desire to step up throw their hat in the ring, do the hard thing that all the 5 of us have done, and expose ourselves to public scrutiny for the benefit of trying to make a difference in your community.
Okay, and for my part, obviously, I didn't bring the topic, but I'm glad to have the discussion. Commissioner Berry, I do agree. I think if we narrowly focus it to that for the reasons you enunciated, I think it makes sense. And I don't necessarily disagree with everything you said, Doug, but I would say this, and I said it at the last meeting where this topic came up. It does require a lot when you run for one of these positions, and every time I've run, whether it was the school board or for the county, I've had to go to my employer and essentially ask permission. And at any time along the way, if they would have said no, I wouldn't have been able to run because they know what I know. It's a significant amount of whether you're in your desk doing your job, your mind's somewhere else, whatever the case might be, or taking time off to be at debates or other functions. I mean, it's definitely a distraction. And so where I would disagree with you, Doug, and where I think you missed the point is you can do whatever you want. You have free speech. You can say whatever you want. I mean, but there's consequences. If any of the employers I've worked for in the last 17 years could have said, Jeff, we love you. You do a good job for us. Go get them, Tiger. But, come back and see us. You're either going to win or you're going to lose. But, we need someone here every day, 100% on the job. And I would have had to live with that. And as a matter of fact, I think it would be remiss if I didn't mention this. When I ran for the county commission, I had to resign. I sent a letter to the governor. I had a 4-year term on the school board, cut it in half. I resigned because Florida makes you resign to run. Now, unlike congressmen and senators who try and run for president and then they lose, or they say they're going to run for Senate, sign up to run for Senate, and then that senator decides not to retire and run, and they scurry back to their seats. We don't have that luxury. So I don't think it's unfair. I think if you really are that passionate about it, and we have a rule like this, you make the choice. You leave and you run. And but I think what is important is there has to be some skin in the game. If you've got nothing to lose, and you're an insider and you're running, and well, if I win, I'm fine. If I lose, I just don't. Something's not right about that. So, and I think that's why Florida has it right. You resign. You don't get your full 4 years. You don't get to halfway through run for something else, something higher, and then if you lose, come back and finish your term. It's not fair to the people behind you. And frankly, if we're looking at it this way, it's not fair to the people behind you as an employee. When you're essentially saying, I'm going to take time out, I'm going to go do this, and if I win, then you could apply and run. I think the organization has to keep moving forward. So, I think option one would be fair. I appreciate Allison doing the research and bringing language from multiple other counties, good language. And I appreciate Commissioner Berry and Bender bringing it. I don't know that I would have, but now that it's here before us, I will support option one. And I don't think it limits anyone at all. It doesn't limit you. Can go again. You've got freedom of speech. You've got freedom of choice. But an employer has a say. And I think this will be something that is reasonable. And if you're really that passionate about it, quit and run again. Quit and run. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to direct county attorney to bring the policy back. I believe it's option 2 that is the more restrictive option, where it's only our board.
Wait, I thought option 2 was where they couldn't run for anything.
I'm getting a head nod from the county attorney.
Yeah, it does look like the option 2 public office would mean one of the 5 county commissioner districts.
Okay, then that's the one.
So that's my motion. Yes, sir.
Second. All right, we've got a motion second on that. Please vote. That item passes 3 in favor, Douglas Underhill opposed, Luna May off the dice. All right. Next up on the agenda, Cat 3 for information.
This is just an information item where the city did indemnify us for a fall that was related to the library. It took a little bit of effort to get there, but they did eventually indemnify us, and they did settle the case, which is good news for us.
Thank you, Madam Council. I'm going to handle Commissioner May's add-on, which is the board approving funding for $1,000 from Commissioner May's discretionary account in support of Montclair Elementary school. I'm going to also add $500 from Commissioner Berry's discretionary fund for a total of $1,500.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Item passes unanimously. And then Commissioner Berry, you're added on?
I apologize. So it was not in the, it was acted on or was not? I'm
So
sorry.
Commissioner Berry, I did add it to the agenda, but it's added into the add-on section of the agenda. Sorry.
I still don't understand that. Really.
Sorry, sir.
Believe the system is not user-friendly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My add-on is for $1,500 from my discretionary account for the Tate High School cheerleader program.
And I'll second it with
travel
that.
to the state tournament.
Gotcha. I'll second it, and then with a, if I could amend it to add 1,000 from District 1 to that.
Well, I know Ms. Touchstone and Tate will be the staff as well as the cheerleading sponsors. Thank you.
All right. Please vote. Item passes 4-0 with Commissioner May off the dais. Okay. Any announcements for the good of the whole? Anything else that we've forgotten? We're adjourned. Yeah, I'll sign them.